Hey, what's up? So, thanks for tuning in on this video. I am going to be discussing Python conditionals today. I'll be doing it in this Colab notebook, which I will put a link to in the description of this YouTube video as well. So you can grab it, you can go to File, and you can save a copy in your own drive so you can have access to this notebook. This isn't really well planned out, so I'm just going to start going and, you know, we'll make the most of it. I apologize if it is a little unorganized, but conditionals, I think there's some like important things to know about them. So, what are they? Well, it's basically like instances where you tell your code to check if something is true. And I want to say is true because there are times where you say, is this false? But really what you're doing is you're saying, hey, if the statement this is false is true, right? Like, hey, if this doesn't have this in the list, if it's false, I want to know that. So at the end of the day, you are asking like truthy things. And kind of framing it that way just makes it a little bit easier. Some examples. So we'll just do some examples. Slash use cases. So we'll say iterate over every row that has an even numbered index. So the code example for that would be if row index mod 2 is 0, right? That would be a conditional that you could write in your code. Another example of a condition is like if the length of a list is greater than n, then do this thing to it. So let's say you're like going through a bunch of lists, like a list of lists. Let's say you have a bunch of classes, right? A bunch of class rosters with students, and you have a list of names in each class. And you're iterating through all the classes and you're just saying like, hey, if length of class list, maybe you're like is greater than 10 and you want to do something, right? Maybe you want to say, hey, if we have more than 10 students, check on that teacher. She's probably, or he is probably really busy. That was sexist to just say she first. So I was a teacher too. So shame on me, but live and learn. We get better. And so you could totally do that. Let me tab this over so it's a little bit easier to read. What's a condition that I use a lot? So sometimes I'll use conditions like if like this data is in a row, then do this thing, and I'll do that. So I'll write, hey, if 2000 in my row dot values or whatever, maybe like log it or something. And notice that all these are if conditions. I write a thing to check and then I put a colon because the colon's like, hey, and basically what that means is we're going to hit enter after this and put a tab over here and then just write some stuff. So these are conditionals. There are conditionals are just this. They're almost always if statements. There's also inline conditionals, which we'll get to later, similar to inline lists and for loops. And there's also like conditional operators, or they're not called conditional operators. They're called logical operators in Python. And so there's an and there's an or operators. And these basically, let me show that typed. And or operators. And what these do is you can string a bunch of if statements together. So if the name of the person is Pedro and they live in New York, or they live in Tennessee and they are over the age of 30, or they're under the age of 40. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of string a bunch of ifs, and so it'll check all that, and then it'll say, cool, is all this true? And if so, move on to the next thing. And so this is just what conditionals are. I think I've talked enough about it. Let's freaking write some code, huh? So the first thing I'm going to do is just do some imports. I'm going to bring in random because random is hella nice. I'm going to import pandas as PD. Then I'm going to say from scikit-learn dot datasets import load, and we'll do load. I actually don't know a good data set. Let me run this real quick and I'll find one. Load iris, we can do that. From scikit-learn dot datasets import load. We can bring in some stuff. We'll do load iris is pretty good. That's a good data set right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just set this data set up. So I'm going to say iris equals load iris. And whenever you bring in any, scikit-learn has a lot of cool data sets and they all follow this format. So this is a data set object. So let me go to type iris, and you'll see here it's a bunch. It's a scikit-learn bunch object. I don't know what that means, but I know what it has in it. So the data lives in iris.data. The column names live in iris.feature names. The target values equals iris.target. And then the target names equals iris.names. And you'll usually do this for every single data set in scikit-learn. These four things always happens. Now we're going to make it a data frame. So df equals pd dot data frame. Data equals data. Columns equals column names. We'll say df dot we'll say target. Usually we just call it target equals target values. And then we'll say df target names equals target names v for v in target values. So what are we doing here? Well, we have kind of broken up. Let's break up the bunch into some components, and then let's load that bunch into a data frame. But the thing is, we're just getting the data. So what the iris data set is, just to kind of recap, you get like 4 measurements of an iris flower, right? You get its sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. And with that information, you have to see, can I predict what type of iris flower it is? So the data is just those 4 data points. The target is the type of iris flower that it is. So here we're add the target array as a column to the data frame. And this is going to be full of zero. There's 3 different flowers. So there is a versicolor. There is a, what is it? Iris data set. Virginica, versicolor, and setosa. So there's like setosa, virginica, and versicolor. And the target values are 0, 1, and 2, and they're going to correspond with one of these. So 0 is going to be setosa, 1 is going to be virginica, 2 is going to be versicolor. I don't know if that's actually the order they're in, but we're doing that. So but they are mapped that way. So what we're doing here is we're adding the zeros, ones, and twos array here. And here we're going to add the target names as the column to the data frame as well. So we'll do that. Do df.head attribute error names. So what did I? Oop. Cool. So as you can see, 0 is Setosa. Nice. And I want to say Virginica and Versicolor are in the right order, but those two might be switched around. Okay. We have sepal link, sepal width, pedal link, pedal width, target, and target names. So now what? What do we do here? Well, we can do conditionals, man. This is cool stuff. So let's just iterate through all the rows of the data frame. So to do that, you can say not with for index comma row in df.iterRows print, and we're just going to print the row. So you'll see what it is, and I'm going to say if index is 10 break. And what that means is, hey, so this is the index column. It's got no column name over it. If I look here, there's nothing over it. And it's just, it's a numerical array. It's just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to, I think there's 150 rows in this data frame, if I remember. And what we're saying is, hey, we're going to loop through all these rows. We're going to go row by row by row by row by row. And once this value equals 10, just stop. So we're going to go ahead and print the index. We're going to print the row. We're going to go ahead and just print a new line as well. So the first thing we'll print is 0. Then we're going to print the row 0 information. And then we're going to print a new line. So you'll see these two things. We're going to go to the second row. We're going to print a 1. Row 1 information. New line. And we're going to do this all the way until we get to 10. Row 10 information. New line. And then this is going to be true. True when row 10 has passed. So then we're going to break at row 10 and stop. And we'll see that happen. So we'll see row 0 printed all the information, printed a new line. Row 1 printed all the information, printed a new line. Do all the way until we get to 10. So how do we get it to stop before 10? Right? What if we're like, man, we actually just don't want 10? It's like super easy. We do this. We put the check at the beginning, right? So what we're doing is we're checking the index first. And if it equals 10, guess what? It's going to break and we're never going to get there. So we're going to print up to row 9. And so we'll see that here. Boom. So now we're at row 9. And that's a conditional, y'all. It's like fairly straightforward. I mean, this is the conditional part, this if statement. So how can we use these in a clever way? Well, with data frames, they are used in a lot of ways because sometimes you just want to pull like really specific data out of here. So let's say I want to say df.loc. Don't worry about what loc is. It's just a method that we use. And then you can actually just set conditionals here. You can say, hey, sepal length is centimeters. And I want my sepal length to be, let's just say greater than 4.5. Okay. So we'll do that. And if you look, it printed all of these where the sepal length is greater than 4.5. See that? So we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's actually do greater than 5. It looks like we're pretty much grabbing everything. So do you see how we got 0? Because that's greater than 5, but we didn't get 1, 2, or 3 because those are all 4.9, 4.7, 4.6, etc. But we didn't even get 4 because we put greater than 5. But if I want to do greater than or equal to 5, I could do that. So what df.loc is doing is it's doing a search, and it's like, hey, find out where this is true. Like if I type this in, let's just grab this and let me show you what's happening here. This is really cool. It's just a bunch of trues and falses, right? We have true at 0, false at 1, false at 2, false at 3, true at 4, true, 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 true. And so what this is actually doing is it's like, hey, I'm only going to get the rows from my data frame. That's what loc does, where this is true. Nice. So let's add something in here. So we're going to do and df dot sepal width in centimeters is less than, we'll say less than or equal to 3.5. It got mad. Oh, my bad. I didn't close the cannot perform. All right, I messed up somewhere. Sepal length. I don't think it's 2 ampersands. What does it say? Cannot perform with array of a scalar type. Oh, I know what. So whenever you do multiple conditions in df.loc, we're going to be using df.loc for all these examples. So if you're not familiar with pandas, don't worry about it. Just kind of copy paste some stuff. When you do multiple conditions, you need to put them in parentheses. So this needs its own parenthesis. This needs its own parenthesis. And what we could do to make it just more readable is we could do this. So we can say do this and check this. And we have it. And let's see like what this actually registers. Oh, and this is weird. This is like a pandas thing. This ampersand is what that this loc method wants. It wants to see that ampersand. It doesn't really want to do the word and. So I'm going to type this out here. And I'm going to put the word and here. The values of a true series is ambiguous. Maybe if I remove the parentheses. I know there's like all these stupid rules going from pandas to Python. It's like not happy with this at all. But basically what it's doing is saying like get all the true values, get all the true values, and get all the ones that both these have in common. So it doesn't really work here, unfortunately, which we get to give an example where we can do that here in a little bit. Cool. And you can just continue adding other things. You're like, or you can put an or statement in here. You can put another and statement. You can do whatever you want. Let's go back to this loop. Iter rows. We're going to say if row dot sepal length centimeter is greater than, let's check my sepal length. Let's just do this real quick. I want to do a little cheat shortcut thing. I'm going to go df dot describe, and that's just going to give me like some statistics on this. So let me look at sepal length. The minimum value is 4.3, the max value is 7.9. So let's just go greater than 6.4. Okay. 6.4 and row dot, and we'll check petal length. Is greater than, and let's do 4.35. Print row, print new line. So what this is going to do is we're going to go through all the rows and it's going to check, hey, is this true? And is this true? And if it is true, that's kind of like the key. Like I think of like if statements as like a key, and this is the door. And so if that's true, it gets a key and you can unlock this door and you're going to do whatever's here. Else, we'll do print bruh. Not true. Just like that. So if it is true, we'll print the row. If it's not true, we'll print not true. We're going to run it. And we see here. So we should have 150 things that got printed. A bunch of not truths at the beginning. Right? And then boom, we hit our first true thing right here. It's a versicolor. Versicolor. Ooh, the versicolors look like they all match this description. Ooh, nope. Got some versicolors that didn't. So, we just wrote a little conditional, ran a loop. So let's look at the versicolors real quick. And let's look at their petal width. So this is like 1.8. This is 1.8. This is 2.1. I wonder what would happen if we would want the petal width to be like less than 1.9. Let's see if we can get a verse color. We're going to say end row dot petal less than 1.9. And we're going to remove this bruh not true statement because we really don't care about it. I just want to print the stuff where it's true. If row and row. Yeah, Python doesn't like that. Doesn't like new lines. Oh, I forgot. Centimeters. Nice. So not a ton, right? There's not a lot of flowers that match that. That's cool. We could probably count it. In fact, let's actually count them. Let's set a counter here. So we're going to say count equals 0. And whenever we get in this conditional, we're going to add 1 to our count. And then we're going to print this many flowers fit the condition. Just like that. And this should print it out. I'm going to go ahead and remove this print statement. Let's comment that out. So it's gone. And that way, when we run this, it's just going to add 1 to the count. And you're not going to see all these print out here. 14 flowers. Wow, that's like less than 10%. That's really interesting. And we could fit like way more stuff in here. I think we could fit an or statement. So we'll do this. So we'll say maybe less than I look at petal length. Petal width. And I said, I got 1.9. Did I just like pull that out of my butt? Did I mean like 1.19? I think I did. So we'll do less than 1. We'll do less than like 1.3 and greater than 1.8. So nothing between the 50 75th percentile. So we'll do less than 1.3. Well, first let's see what this is. Less than 1.3. 0 things. Okay, so now let's put this or in here. Or row dot petal width centimeters greater than, what did I say? 1.8. So it should check this, and it's going to check this or and combine the total. It's going to treat the or as one thing because I have it in parentheses here. 21 flowers, which are all coming from this part right here. But it's cool. And you can just kind of do this forever. So what are if-else statements? So those are if statements. Let's talk about if, elif, and else. Those are really cool statements, and I use them a lot. So, let's pick a number. N equals random dot rand int, and we'll do negative 1,000 to 1,000, and we'll say, hey, if n is less than negative 500, print super negative. Elif n is less than 0, print just a wee bit negative. Elif n is less than 100, print slightly positive. Else, print greater than 100. Which is not true, greater than or equal to 100. So what's going to happen? We're going to choose a random integer between negative 1,000 and then positive 1,000. And then we're going to check, is this number less than 500? And if it is, we're going to print this. Else if means, hey, if this is false, jump here. That's what the else is saying. This was false, we're going to go to the else. The if is like, check this. So if this elif, like else, check this. If that's not true, check this. And then finally for else, else is like, if none of this is true, finally just do this, right? It's going to do this no matter what. So let's not assign a random integer right now. Let's just pick one. Let's put 300. So what's going to happen? Well, it's going to come here. False. 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 And then finally, does it check anything here? No. It just checked. Like I think of else as like it has to get to else. And then once it's at else, it does what it'll pass because you're not checking anything. What you're really checking are all these false, which they are. So we'll see this. Cool. Now let's do negative 200. So is it less than 500? No. Is it less than 0? Yes, it's going to do this. Is it less than 100? Yeah, it is less than 100. So is it going to print slightly positive as well? That's a good question. Let's run it and see. No, it didn't print that. And why? So it only printed just a wee bit negative. And the reason is because it's checking this, right? It's checking all these conditions. Once it unlocks one of the doors, it exits out of the entire condition, period. It's just out. It doesn't do anything else. So, boom, just a wee bit negative. But if I put in like 30, right, we'll get to here and it'll print slightly positive, right? False, false, true. I'm out. Let's do negative 830. Super negative. This is true. I did a thing. I'm out. So this is like working with if and else if and stuff like that. And we can mess around with just like random numbers as well. So this is just a wee bit negative, but nowhere are we printing our number. So what if I wanted to print my number? Well, you could go print n. But then, well, I want to print it here too, right? Oh, man. Oh, I want to print it here too. And like, this is stupid because like, do you see how I'm just repeating myself over and over? So it's like, where can I just print my number? Well, I can print it down here. At the very end of everything, just print it. So once I'm out of my condition, I want to print my number. And it is just a wee bit negative. That one is super negative. And so forth. So this is, these are conditionals. Fairly straightforward. That's it, if and else if. So go ahead and make some examples. I like doing this stuff right here because it's like pretty straightforward. And you could do this with anything. We'll get into like logic, like the logic behind if and else ifs, but basically what you want to do is check all cases here. So like if I did this, is there a number like basically what I'm doing is checking, are you less than 500? Are you between negative 1,000 and negative 500? Right. So I'm checking here between negative 1,000, negative 500. Here I'm checking between negative 500 and 0. And here I'm just checking 100. Do you equal 100? And here it's like all other things. I forgot to put these in comments. Sorry. So this is kind of stupid. You could do this, but basically like all, so what's gonna make it down here? Well, what about 5? Well, 5 is not going to be true here. It's not going to be true here, so 5 is going to make it here. All right, it's going to make it down here. Is 5 greater than or equal to 100? No. So this statement's wrong. So I need to fix it, right? And if I run it, let me just run it until I get one. Wow. Really hard to get a number between 0 and 100. There it is, 2. So here's my number. It's 2, and it's saying it's greater than or equal to 100. And it's not, right? It just doesn't equal 100. So I'm going to say positive, but not 100. And now this will be true for everything, right? These are all positive numbers, but they're not equal to 100. Cool. The next thing, these aren't conditionals in Python, but I do want to go over them. They're called try excepts. And what try except does is it tries something, and if it doesn't work, it just does the next thing. So we're going to say try except. And this is actually like used a lot in professional coding in all languages. So this is a really cool idea to get to. So here I'm going to say x equals 1 plus 10 divided by 0, which then I'm going to say print I did the thing, except print I did not do the thing. What try except does is try means this door's open, dude. It's going to just unlock the key automatically. You're going to go in here, and if anything breaks, if it's like, I can't do this shit, this is impossible, it exits out. And it moves on to the accept. And the accept's like, you failed? Well, let's do what's in here. It didn't do the thing. But why? Well, I'm dividing by 0. And Python's like, hey, don't do that. I don't know how to do that. Please leave me alone, right? But here I can print starting the thing. And instead of I did not do, we'll put I could not do, right? Because it tried. So it started the thing. So it went to this line. It tried this and it broke and it like couldn't do it. So these are called try excepts. And this is what they do. And then finally, so it's called try except finally, actually. I know I didn't like. Finished all the things. Finally, we'll execute no matter what. So let's actually do this. Let's make this work. Sorry, my allergies are like really bad today. So this will work. Starting the thing, it could do it. So it did the thing. It skips the accept because it didn't need to go in there. And then it goes to the finally, because the finally is going to execute no matter what you do. So yeah, there's that. Let me put 0. And then, whenever you're getting really into code, you can actually get your exception. What the exception is, are all these just like tabbed incorrectly? Sorry, I'm going to fix this. It's going to bother me. So the exception The exception is what the actual error is. So if I run this, it's starting the thing, tried this, could not do it, went to the exception. And what we're doing is saying, hey, I want to actually see that exception. And I'm going to just give it a variable name of E. We're printing the exception. What's the exception? Division by 0. We cannot do that. And then print, I could not do the thing. And then finally finished all the things. So that's it. Pretty simple. That's try, except, and finally. And some people see these as conditions. They're not like true conditions. They're more for testing, or like an example of when I've used it is try to make this table, but if that table exists, it'll break. And so I'm like, except, and then I'm just like, print out, hey, this table already exists. Because what that's doing is my code's going to try it. And if it breaks, it's not going to like break my entire code. It's just going to say, hey, the table exists, dude. And it's going to keep running. Versus if I did it without the try except, it would just break it and stop the entire code, which would be a problem. So try excepts are used a lot in testing lines and kind of writing conditions around that. But they're like safer conditions to write. Anyways, those are conditionals. Knock yourself out with some fun stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm saving this notebook. I'm going to go ahead and turn on sharing. Restricted. Anyone with the link can view it. Copy the link, and I'm done. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and take it easy.